Let's start this slow. Who are you?
So you know what, Zach? I absolutely appreciate even the simple phrasing of that, who are you? Because part of the past few months, the work that I've really been disrupting, and I'm gonna get to the who are you, but I want to give y'all this framing. Part of the work these past few months that I've been engaging in personally has really been disrupting this lie that colonialism and anti-blackness has told me, that my body is like a tool for production. And so I usually lead with what I do for this answer. I usually lead with that. And I have legit been unlearning this notion that what I do validates who I am, right? Really been resistant and denying that. So to answer that question, I am Brittany J. Harris. Emphasis on Brittany, 3 syllables. My mom, a few weeks ago, actually, when I launched my brand site, this was the first time I actually had my family and colleagues and community. And she was like, Britt, I'm gonna need you to hold your colleagues accountable to the fact that I ain't name you Brittany, like Britney Spears. I named you Brittany. And so I've been honoring my mother these days more intentionally in how I introduce myself. And so Brittany J. Harris, Brittany Janae. I am a creative. There's a quote by Lucille Clifton that I have been reflecting on of late. And you'll notice that I reference Lucille Clifton, poet, writer, all around Black woman magic, quite a bit in my work. But she says, I don't write from a place of having answers than I do from a place of wonder. And that resonates with me so much because I actually consider myself a perpetual wonderer. I feel like I'm always in this seat of curiosity, hella questions, um, with intent to disrupt and maybe even challenge when necessary. And so I consider myself a healthy disruptor. Um, I'm a Black woman, a mother, nurturer to 2 Black boys. I am a daughter to 2 teenage parents who really did their thing to cultivate a culture of love and how they raised my brother and I. And I offer that because that love shows up in how I show up in this work even. I'm a granddaughter, to Lula B and Lewis, Lucille and Elmer. My grandfather is the son of sharecroppers. And so, you know that phrase when they say, oh, we're our ancestors' wildest dreams. I'm legit, y'all, my grandparents' wildest dreams. And I've been reflecting more on even how my grandparents have shaped how I show up as a practitioner and even this new lane and path that I find myself on. And a story came to me that I'm going to share, and it'll come full circle in a bit. But I remember I probably had to been second, third grade. I had posed a question for my to my father. At the time, we were living in Baltimore City, but he and my mom were trying to, move us up one out, and so we were on our way to moving into the suburbs. And around that same time, or shortly thereafter, my grandparents were struggling financially, and so it became really apparent to me even at that young age, the difference between where I was at that time, where we were, that environment, and where my family was actually from. And so that difference between living in the city and moving to the suburbs, being a little bit more around white folks. And I remember really being challenged by it at a young age. And I think that's where this perpetual wonder comes into play. I remember being challenged by why my grandparents got to struggle? Why my family got to struggle, but white folks, got it. White folks are rich. And I even remember bringing in, asking my father the question and connecting it back to faith. Why would God make that so? I offer this because it's very similar to what James Baldwin has this essay, A Talk to Teachers, where he talks about how children begin to learn systems of inequity and dehumanization, especially Black children, just by nature of their environmental surroundings. We start to actually question, okay, why is that like that over there? And why is that different from where I am? We start to believe things that society say and like show us. And so when I think about the question, like, who are you? Like, I am someone who, with that context in mind, wants Black people and Black children to know that they are not deficient, that we are not defective, that we are not invalid, that we are not less than, even when these structures suggest otherwise. I'm someone who wants Black folks to know that it is hella problematic that we actually have to prove ourselves to be worthy of things like housing and education and employment, right? I'm someone who wants us to know that we are inherently worthy and deserving. And when I think back to that story, I'm someone who wants like my second grader self to know that it wasn't necessarily that my grandparents, right, that Grams and Pops did anything wrong or that they were any less deserving or any less worthy, that we weren't any better just because we was about to move up out of there, right? I'm someone who wants that second grader self to like come to know and understand like these systems and structures are like really jacked up and that's not us, right? And so I share all of that because all of that has brought me to me also being the creator of Liberated Love Notes, right? Critical self reflections and affirmations for the culture. I feel like that was long, drawn out, but I feel like that context is important. I feel
It is.
like that's who I am, and they have nothing to do with. And it's fascinating to me to even like speak that back out because it has nothing to do with like what I do, right? And that level of just like clarity for me has been huge.
So, first of all, it was long, but it was needed and it was
Mm,
helpful.
mhm.
And that's okay, right? Like it was the appropriate length for what was needed.
So
Um,
you know it's a culture thing too. Like so the more
what's
I
that?
come into my understanding of self, right? The more I come into my understanding of like who we are as a collective. And so it is absolutely our communication style, people of the African and Black diaspora tend to be less linear in how we tell stories. We use images, right? We bring in context, which I mean, you talk about all of that. I mean, you consider that in a corporate environment, and that can go. That's why there are more often than not like challenges and ways we have to like contort ourselves because it's sometimes what is inherently in us just doesn't resonate nor is it valuable. So yeah, I've come to learn that in as much as who I am is who I am, it is also part of something, it's in me, right?
Yeah,
It's in
it's
me.
deep.
So
It's something
mm,
deeper.
mhm.
And so look, we are going to talk about liberated love notes. I mean, like that's the title of this entire thing we got going on that you have going on. But let's talk about what it is you actually do for a living as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so by day and sometimes by night, I am vice president of learning and innovation with the Winters Group. The Winters Group is a global diversity, equity, inclusion, justice consulting firm. Y'all might already know. Black owned, Black led, Black founded by Mary Frances Winters. Um, we actually just celebrated 37 years in the game. That's something.
37 years. That's
What?
incredible.
What?
Beautiful.
What? Talk about doing the work, sustaining the work, and building. And so, in my role, I'm primarily responsible for leading the team that is responsible for like designing all of our learning experiences uh, that really seek to shift perspectives and facilitate connection, hopefully empower action around equity, justice, and inclusion. Uh, and as much as the recent environment, right, the backdrop of all that is going on has called for many organizations to evolve their DEI work into one that centers justice, I just want to name that we're not new to this. We are true to this. About 4 years ago, or 4 or 5 years ago, we really started to do work around mapping the intersection between corporate DEI and social justice work. And so I am very proud to say that in as much as, the DEI mainstream is oftentimes not without critique, and that it absolutely centers whiteness. A lot of times it has been grounded in, the implicit biases and just the cultural competence and the feel goods of belongingness. Work that is necessary and without a power analysis means absolutely, nothing. We have been approaching the work in that way. Um, and so, yeah, I am I still consider myself a DEI practitioner. I will say over the last, and I may have shared this with you a few times, Zach, over the last couple of months, maybe even year, I've been in deep reflection on just how I understand DEI in relation to, you know, purpose versus profession and like all the things. I've been thinking about DEI, what it means to be Black in DEI, and how that is an additional toll, a very unique experience, in that not only are you trying to do the work to uh, minimize harm and resolve the trauma that is imposed on Black and brown folks by these systems. As a Black person, this work can inherently be re-traumatizing, and so that has been something I've been thinking about a lot. I shared with someone recently after hearing this from a community healer. She said she categorized or referred to DEI as the necessary harm reduction work, right? That means to an end work that is necessary while we exist in these systems, but it absolutely will not save and heal us, right? And so uh it's some necessary work. And I'm very clear that there is work that we have to do as Black folks. So when I say we have to do as Black folks in community that is beyond the scope of a lot of the, like, mainstream DEI conversations and work and all the things. So that's what I do, and that's what I love, and I appreciate the folks who I am in community with, often consultants, obviously our instructional designers, and even our clients with really good intentions. And yet the work doesn't stop there, right? The work doesn't stop there.
So, you and I talk. I consider us
Mhm.
friends. I enjoy the work that we do together. I enjoy the conversations we have, but why are we here right now?
Yeah. Yeah. In short, right? I'm trying to build, we trying to build live in corporate. So first of all, I was reflecting on, like, okay, when did I first come to know and understand or be familiar with living corporate? And I realized that, like, in as much as I think I hit you up maybe last year or the year before, the first living corporate episode that I listened to, I was actually in San Francisco in 2018. And it's crazy. And so here I am. It's gonna come full circle. I just wanna, like, just a little anecdote on manifestation, right? And this came to me like out the blue, which is what it's just how my mind works. I was at the airport in San Francisco in 2018 at a client site, and I can't remember how. And it was, I think, at a time when it was you and I think another gentleman holding a conversation with a Black executive. I can't remember where it was from, but I remember thinking to myself, like, you know what? This is I want to, like, I at some point just want to be aligned, because I remember feeling like real full. Um after listening to the episode and being drawn to how the platform was being used to really amplify Black and brown, voices, communities, experiences, all the things. And so that's one thing. Why am I here? When I think about where I am right now and wanting to build liberated love notes, center my practice and work around what I feel Black people need, what we are deserving of. I want to do that in partnership and in community. And so today is really all about us, at least from my perspective, like like a meeting of the minds of sorts, and leveraging living corporate to really uplift what liberated love notes is and will be. I want to use Liberated Love Notes live as a way to really scale and foster this collective consciousness, right? And community, right? So the short answers to that, I'm here to really take Liberated Love Notes in partnership with Living Corporate to our community, the community who I know is already actively engaged with, a community that is reflective of, who I am, who we are, and, you know, would benefit from this work.
I love it. I love it. And we've said the phrase a few times. What is liberated love notes? And maybe for context, what does liberation mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's good because I be spitting, and I realize too. Hold me accountable. I realize sometimes I be sharing, spitting out terms, not even without even offering like common language. And so, there's a really good friend of mine, colleague in this work, and she, Kiala Jacques, another Black woman. I love her definition of liberation, and she defines it as showing up as the fullest expression of oneself, uninterrupted. And there is something about that uninterrupted qualifier that, like, it just hit different. It hit different, Zach. And so, uninterrupted by like problematic norms, uninterrupted by the white imagination, uninterrupted by messages and narratives that would suggest we need to do this, this, and that before we are like worthy of, right? When I think about liberation, I think about Black people's inherent right, emphasis on inherent right to like make our own decisions, build our own communities, affirm our own identities and experiences unapologetically, right? Uh, our inherent right to heal and reimagine a world and spaces and structures beyond whiteness. When I think about liberation, I think about leveraging our own inherent brilliance to solve for our own problems without the need for permission. When I think about the state of liberation, I think about this state of when who we are is enough, right? Like this like collective being and like knowing. There's another, and I emphasize this being piece because there's another quote by Lucio Clifton that I love. And y'all, let me just I'll share. I really be feeling like and truly believe that our ancestors like show up in just how we move and like connect with us, and um a lot of what they've experienced and left behind ends up being embodied in us. And so I be feeling real connected to Lucio Clifton, y'all. If y'all don't know her, get to know her. But there's this quote where she says, in the bigger scheme of things, the universe is not asking us to do something, the universe is asking us to be something. And that's a whole different thing. And so I see liberation as this like state of being, right? Where we are absolutely enough. And so to answer your follow-up question, liberated love notes are affirmation statements that really get at, I think I was saying, like disrupting injected oppression, really get at building up our capacity to exist in white spaces, toxic spaces. Liberated love notes include statements that put us in a position to begin to intentionally just build a healthier racial identity. I actually started writing them. One, just for my own personal practice, because even though I exist in and work for a Black owned institution, I still experience white supremacy every day, right? And so I needed something for myself, right? And so I ended up writing statements that um not only affirmed who I was or who I am, but also hold me accountable. They were also in response to just some of the things that my peers and my family and my friends would share as it related to their experience in some of these spaces. Self reflection, from my perspective, is a huge part or should be a huge part of our own personal practice. And so, Liberated Love Notes include self reflection questions. I think all of this work needs to be done in community. So there are like group discussion prompts. What makes it all the more special though is obviously they were written by myself, so a Black woman. They were designed by a Black woman. They were even edited, y'all, by a Black woman. And so all kinds of love, right? I actually shared one today just so I can make it real practical. One of the liberated love notes that I shared today um was in response to one of my good girlfriends, and we won't take a deep dive on this topic today, but she's like, Brittany, like, do you want everyone to just like leave their jobs in corporate America or something? Like, is that what you want us all to do? And I was like, nah, like, I really want, I know that's not practical. Like, I know that it's very difficult. Capitalism is real. Like, we're not only caring for our families, but like households, the wealth gap is real, and yet we have the responsibility to exist in these systems with greater clarity. It's just not enough to be, for lack of better words, playing the game on autopilot and then like perpetuating all kinds of, internalized oppression and things. And so one of the liberated love notes that I offered um, is around our worth and proximity to white institutions. And it reads, my worth and legitimacy are not dictated by white institutions. My allegiance is and will always be to my community, the Black community, even when I am working within the context of white systems. And that level of consciousness, awareness, and intentionality, from my perspective, clarity is necessary for us to continue to not just like survive, but thrive in these systems, right? Because if we ain't clear, we end up, I think you posted it a while ago, Zach. Like, what was it? Like, you think you playing the game, but
You
you're really
playing
playing the stuff.
yourself.
You don't even know. And we
Big
can
playing
we
yourself.
like we owe ourselves more, right? We can do better. We deserve better. So, um, that's what yeah, that's what liberated love notes are. My way to, I hate the term normalize, but like my way to support us, right? And realizing liberation for ourselves, even while we deal with the realities of whiteness in the day to day, right? Because yeah, I'm telling you, DEI is not gonna save us, right? It
It's
it
not.
just
No,
it just ain't
it's
gonna
not.
save us.
We've seen 15 years of supposed effort and intentional engagement in this space, and yet these transparency reports look exactly the same. So
And exactly, and to the point now where, and this has nothing to do with this, but I mean, hey, like institution, like transparency ain't even nothing anymore. Like everybody releases data, and it is just kind of like, oh, okay, it is abs. It,
data be terrible. They'd be like, yeah, yep.
like yo, so yes, DEI will not save us. It's so interestingly enough, I was facilitating a session a couple, what was this, last week, and someone had asked me like, well, do you think that we really reverse colonialism? Can we really reverse white supremacy? And this is a Black woman. I had to be real transparent with sis in that, like, yeah, that's not my work. You know what I mean? Like, um, I don't I don't know that that is really within the scope, the immediate scope of my influence right now. And I do believe that in community as Black folks, we can do the work to heal from white supremacy. We can do the work to heal from colonialism. We can create containers where we're really intentional about that on our own. Because I just don't know if I can say authentically and with conviction that the practice of DEI is going to get us sort of like what we need, right? And like you said, the years of whatever, however long this has been formalized as a body of work proves it so, right? And so let's do the absolutely continue to do the harm reduction work necessary. And let's be very, very clear about uh, what our personal work and practice should be grounded in if our end goal is, liberation, right?
I love it. I love it. So Brittany.
My mom is going to smile when she hears that, Zach.
We're thankful for you and we're excited about this.
Mhm.
So let's talk about, you know, where can folks learn more about you? This is essentially episode 0, but
Mhm.
where can folks learn more about you as we get ready to air the first official episode? Like, where can folks kind of tap in and check in?
Yeah, I feel like I'm Brittany J everywhere, and so BrittanyJ.com. I feel really excited to share that on my birthday, and so February 17th, I actually launched like my brand site, which I'm really excited about. It has been so that's where you can find me, my thoughts, liberated love notes, the things I think about, the work that I am doing, some of the products and resources that are for us, by us will absolutely be there. And so that's prime. I want to share that you can absolutely find more there. But I'm also Brittany Janae on Instagram and Twitter. But I think on Instagram it's actually Brittany Janae underscore. And obviously here, right? I'm really excited, Zach, for how Liberated Love Notes Live will evolve and really excited to just like build with, right? Be in community with you and the rest of the folks on Living Corporate. So yeah.
That's dope. All right. Well, look, Brittany, we're gonna talk to you soon. Excited for you to be here. Listen, y'all. I'm just always honored and excited about living corporate and the things that we're doing and how we're growing, and the incredible people that decide to journey with us. Right. So, uh, look, Liberated Love Notes is a podcast airing weekly, coming to you very soon. In the meantime, make sure you share this episode, give it 5 stars, and catch y'all later. Peace.